guys, this is Ash and you're watching WriterGAsh, and today I've got a book talk for A Reaper at the Gates, which is the third book in the Ember in the Ashes series, and I'm filming this video weeks after I read this book, so I'm sorry for what's to come. I do have some notes about the book that I wrote today to gather my thoughts from my memories, so hopefully it's enough for me to talk about. But this book was epic, and I kind of entered a slump-ish after it. Not really a slump, because I still read a lot. I just was struggling to really talk about it. I loved it. There's no doubting the fact that I loved it. I loved it. But yeah. And also I was busy with the Pride books that I had that I wanted to paint and then read. I've talked about it a billion times already. I read Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating. Fantastic. Love it. Pick it up. 5-star. Read it. It's so good. But after that, I just was like, I wanted to come back to this. I started reading another book and I just kept feeling more like I wanted to come back to this series. But I also didn't want to read the next book before doing the book talk on this book. And it's doing the book talk part that kind of deterred me from reading the next book. So I decided today I'm going to do the book talk today and read the next book, because I am dying to read the next book. The next book, that's all I've been thinking about. It's going to be so good. God, I feel like that's going to let me down because of how built up it's in my head. But it's just the filming and editing that I was dreading more than anything, which is why I decided I just have to give in and do it. There's just no more procrastinating. I can't. I've got so many other books to read this month. Also, I got a few arcs, which I do need to read this month because the books are coming out soon, so I will be finishing Ember in the Ashes series before I get to those, which is why I need to film this video today. God, I rambled on for 2 minutes. Anyway, let's carry on. Moving on. Anyway, without further ado, stop me from rambling your ears off. Let's get into the book. So, this book basically follows Laia, Elias, and Helene's journeys in this storyline. Like, we started off with it being just Elias and Laia's story, and then we got Helene's point of view added in it. And I think it is a really good addition with them having separate journeys now, because Helene's story is definitely worth telling. And we also got to know so much more about the Nightbringer and the Djinn, and I found that fascinating. So from here on out, spoilers galore. So the Djinn were captured in the groves, in the waiting place, by the Scholar King, because one of the Djinns, Shiva, had given away their secrets, and just like learning about how good the Djinn were. They were peaceful creatures. All they did was help people, after they died, they helped transfer the spirits. And the fact that they had magic was something people envied, and the scholars envied, and the king, holy fuck, I didn't expect this to happen. Cain, the augur, was the Scholar King that betrayed the Djinn. I was mind blown when that fact was revealed. But it broke my heart that these peaceful people, these people who had done nothing to hurt the scholars, were betrayed in such a horrific way. And I felt for them. And God, when I started the series, I didn't think I could feel this way for the Nightbringer. I felt so bad for him. I felt pity. I mean, not saying what he's doing is right. Like, I get him wanting to free his people. That's one thing. But him in turn, taking revenge and destroying all scholars thousands of years later, these scholars had nothing to do with what happened. I would get it if his revenge was strictly with the augurs, but no, he's trying to take down scholars. And these scholars that are alive now have been through enough as well. They have been tortured, they have been colonized, they have been treated horribly. So I think they've paid their dues. Anyway, going back, it just, but I also still felt so bad for him, because think about it this way. While the others, like his children, were trapped in the groves, he was the lone survivor. Imagine the survivor's guilt he must be feeling. The centuries of guilt he has felt. That's enough to break anyone. And I think like he was like he's for sure gone crazy with the way, like with the way he has had to live for so long all alone while his wife and his children were all gone. And he's just trying to bring his family back, because that's like, they were his people. He was their king. And yeah, I feel for him, but also I don't support him taking down all scholars and him trying to bring back the jinn. And I'm scared of what happens when the jinn come back, because while he was trapped in his survivor's guild, they were literally trapped in a prison for thousands of years. Or how many ever, I don't know what the time frame was, but for years. And that's got to take a mental toll on them too. So it's going to be interesting seeing how this is going to go. So in this book, Elias is kind of taking on his role as a soul catcher and trying to learn what to do. And he really struggles with cutting off his human ties. In the beginning, when like Laia is helping like scholars escape from the martial control caravans or something, Elias is supposed to join them, and Elias keeps like ditching his training to join Laia and Darren on the scholar resistance, basically. And in this case, Laia is trying to like free Mami Rila, I think that's his Rila, from Helene, basically, and she gets captured. Elias doesn't show up until the very last minute, and then him and Helene have this confrontation-ish kind of a moment, and then he gets dragged back to the waiting place by Moth. And that was like, I was scared what was gonna happen. Like, I thought that would be the end of Elias's like freedom, that he would be forced to give in to the waiting place and kind of give up his connection to the human world. And he does have to do that for the sake of the world at the end. But yeah, that's something I was dreading all along. I hope that he can break free and he can come back, because him and Laia really deserve a chance. Laia does escape Helene, and Elias helps Laia and Darren go to find the beekeeper in Adisha. So he takes them to Adisha. Before that, a whole lot of shit goes on, but I'm gonna start actually with Helene's storyline, kind of go over what happens with her in this book. So Helene's sister is now married to Marcus, and he is fucking abusive. And she's pregnant with the heir to the throne, basically. And Helene and Olivia decide that the best thing to do would be to take down Karis and Marcus, so they could take on the regent role and the kid could one day rule. Kind of save the world from the torturous monsters they were. And Marcus sends Helene to kind of take out Karis in Nevium. And there she's kind of met with the resistance. Karis is built up with all these paeders. A lot of people are on her side, and Helene makes a bad call by sending soldiers and two of the paeders into a situation where they die. Later we find out, with the help of Queen Viturius, that Karis had kind of made it look that way so people would lose their trust in Helene, and they bring back the people who had kind of been hiding all along. And Karis is just a horrible person. There is just, God, why is she so awful? So in the last two books, I was of the belief that one of the reasons Karis was so horrible was because of the way her father treated her less than. because she was a woman, because that's what it came off as. If you think about it, the way they talked about it a lot, it was the way Kara said it was because Elias was a guy, Elias was automatically named the heir, and blah blah blah. But it turns out that Quinn actually did care about his daughter, and something in Karis just broke when her mother died, and Quinn wasn't able to be there for her, and that's something he seems to regret. He genuinely regrets. But when he tried to be there for her, she rejected all of his efforts, and she was kind of cold. And by then, it was just too late to be there for her. And then she just became crueler and crueler. There were horrible circumstances in her life, and what's her name? Helene does learn about what happened to Avitas's father, how Helene had to watch him die, how people in her class had killed him, and it was just horrible. Like, I can see how all of these events in her life made Karis who she is, but she's a horrible person now, and nothing in her past excuses her actions today. Also, Avitas and Helene are so cute together. I'm really rooting for them, but I'm so scared. I feel like something bad is going to happen in the next book. They have the little kiss, and Helene reminds them that that's not okay to happen because she is his supervisor and things need to stay business-like. And I kind of wish they do have a relationship, because I feel like Helene does need someone to ground her, because she is going through so much. Anyway, so Karis is working for the enemy, basically working with the enemy to take down the empire, basically, so she can be empress. And oh god, like, I don't give a shit what has happened to you in the past, but you're basically taking down your own people. You're betraying your own people. And in doing that, you're standing with the same kind of assholes that killed the man you claim to have loved. Because she isn't saving the plebeians. She's saving the illustrians, the very people that killed her lover. So, like... And I mean, it's all part of the Nightbringer's big plan in getting what he wants, which we'll talk about more. Anyway, back to the beginning-ish. So the Nightbringer kills Shiva, and Elias is completely wrecked by that, obviously. He takes Laya and Darren to Adisha, where they meet with they're trying to find the beekeeper, who is Musa. But before they find him, they kind of have to give themselves up, because the crown princess and her people are attacking the other scholars to draw them out, and they give themselves up. And Musa, the beekeeper, kind of helps them escape. He asks Laya to help him lead the resistance and help the scholars in Marin, and asks Darren to build the steel, and asks Darren to build the skins that they need to win the war. And Laya really grows into her power in this book. I feel like she grows as a leader, she grows as a warrior, she really grows as a person, and I love that. She goes to the king, asks for his help, who refuses because he wants to be there for her, for his daughter, who refuses to save his daughter's face, who's obviously against helping Laya and everyone else. And that's because Nikla, I think that's her name, is basically haunted by ghouls who are guiding every action she has. And obviously they're anti-scholar. And the Jinn destroy the library that Laya needs access to find a way to help the scholars and to stop the Nightbringer. And she does find the prophecy and puts it together and goes to get the ring that Helene has that is supposed to contain the last piece of the star, which it doesn't. We see it when the Nightbringer destroys the ring like it's nothing. And the fact that it was Helene's mask all along, the way he rips it off her face. And to get to Helene, Laia goes through the waiting place and was hoping that Elias would get her there. But she instead ends up in the Jin's Grove and finds out that the cook is her mother and that the cook killed her older sister and her father to stop them from spilling the secrets and to save them from further pain. And the person Musa had arranged for Laia to work with when in the capital was the cook. And they have the moment where they talk about their past, and the cook is extremely dissociated from who she once was, but you can see the pain in her, like seeing her daughter there and feeling unworthy of being her mother. In a way, that's what it felt like. It was heartbreaking. But by the way, so like when Alaya finds out about her mother, she's kind of broken, and Elias finds her, kind of helps her escape the grove and the waiting place, and tells her that he loves her and that wouldn't change regardless. So what happened next, basically? And what happens next is him giving up his humanity, or well, his connection to the world. And I feel like that was very much needed, because after Shiva died, he really struggled with his role as the soul catcher, to the point where he didn't realize the spirits were trying to leave the waiting place, and then they were taking over host bodies, and they were unable to save lives. And he was unable to keep them contained, basically. And also the way that I hate to say it, but his inability to do his job cost so many tribal people their lives. That's gotta hurt, because they're his people and he couldn't save them. He couldn't do their job, which led to their deaths. And that was just heartbreaking. In the end, he finally lets his soul go. His connection to human life go, and fully embraces Moth. And in the end, he meets the spirit who's looking for her lovey, who is Karis, making the spirit his grandmother. So I'm hoping that the spirit helps Elias regain his connection to the world, or something like that, because Elias and Laia deserve more. They deserve happiness. Anyway, so like I mentioned, Laia and the cook work together to get to the shrike. Laia finds her way in because Livia is in labor, and literally there are no doulas, or I think doulas, available to help her give birth, and the only one there is Karis's plant. Anyway, so Laia goes in, helps Olivia give birth, and in the aftermath of it, she steals the rings and makes it out of there. And then the Nightbringer shows up and shows to her that it's not really the thing he's looking for. God fucking damn it, it was the fucking mask, like I said. Anyway, so Marcus in the end does do something. He is killed, but in the end he is better than he has been in all of this books. Like, even before he had lost his mind with his brother's death, he was a horrible person. I think his death was his only redeeming moment, and he actually gave a shit about his child. Livia and Helene and some of the other marshals escape, some of the scholars escape, and they kind of work together at the end, to the point that Livia basically declares them free, saying that it was the scholars that helped keep them alive, basically. And the cook sacrifices herself for Laia. Basically, I think I'm pretty sure the cook sacrifices herself at the end of the book. She sends like Laia and Helene in, and like says, close the entrance so no one can get in, but she stays out there. And I'm so scared. I just want Laia to have a moment with her mother. I want Darren to get to reunite with his mother. They deserve some happiness. These people have been through freaking enough. Also, the heartbreaking moment when Elias shows up on the battlefield to get all the spirits to come back with him, and when Laia tries to talk to him, he is just not there. Just my poor heart. This book was extremely painful, but it was so well written, and I loved every minute of it. And I am, now that this video is filmed, I am so excited to get to the next one. Anyways, that is it for this book talk. It was all over the place because I filmed it weeks after reading it, and that was a big mistake. It's just, to be honest, filming book talks is a lot of work and takes a lot of thought. So I was just not in the mood for the videos. Now that I am excited to get back into it. See you guys.